The House of Mystery presents Inside Writing, the radio show where authors discuss their writing process in all genres.
Now we are at the interview part of the show, and we do a lot of authors, and now I'm also bringing in some publishers. So it's an interesting business, especially with Amazon and online and all of those things going on. So we've got a special publisher, and it's called Rattling Good Yarns Press. And we are talking to the creator and the person that runs it, Ian Henzel. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
So let's start out at the beginning. How did you get involved in doing a publishing company? Like, what brought you to that?
Oh, gosh. Well, it sort of starts 47 years ago or so when I was getting out of college, and I had a choice of two jobs. One was with a publishing company, and one was with a travel-related company. And this is back in the late 70s. The travel-related job, the take-home pay was $5 more a week, which was $20 a month, a lot back in about 1978. And I went down that path, always wondering what would have happened had I gone down the publishing path. And so I ended up in a job focused on marketing technology and software development, and that was my career for about 42 years. And I retired, and my husband is an author, and I was sort of dissatisfied with the way he was being treated by publishers, particularly in collecting royalties and the spotty payment of royalties. So I decided to take the plunge and start my own publishing company. And that's what gave birth to Rattling Good Yarns about 18 months ago.
Well, I understand that. I've had books published by different publishers, and some are good and some are not so good or really awful. But so how are you going to take that on in the sense that not only is there the accounting part of it and that, but you've got to bring on people that write, authors, and you have to take a chance. You also have to have some sort of printing and distribution and marketing and all that. How did you get all that together?
Well, it was a lot of learning the ropes as I went along. So we started with my husband's works, which are both fiction and nonfiction. And we've been branching out into other authors. And oddly enough, they're finding us. I don't usually take general submissions. There has to be more of an introduction. But we are coming out with books this year by three authors. Actually, four. We came out with our first book that my husband was not involved in at all. We came out with a book called Paper Cuts, My Life in the Volatile LGBTQ Press in Chicago, and that was by author Rick Carlin. And that was my first foray. And it was an interesting, he spent over 30 years in the LGBTQ press in Chicago from its very early days, when it was really rough and tumble, to it becoming a more mature, very competitive press. And so we brought that out, and other authors have been finding us. So there is no shortage of good authors and good work, but we are very selective.
So what is the primary focus of your publishing company? Like, do you look for a particular type of book? Does it have to be true or nonfiction or fiction? Do you have a specialty?
No, we publish both fiction and nonfiction. We have a history book out called Out of the Underground, and that's the history of the LGBTQ movement in the Radical Underground Press. So we have that out. We brought that out last year. But we also have fiction. The only commonality is it has to be either LGBTQ focused or an LGBTQ author. That's the only requirement, and of course that it's a quality work that has something to say, something new to say.
So, do you think that these are books that perhaps the mainstream publishing industry would have shied away from due to their content?
It's a very interesting question. Yes, I think, so our mission statement is, it's very short and succinct, that we bring overlooked LGBTQ voices to light. I think there's a lot that's overlooked, because quite honestly, and I certainly understand it, I come from a marketing background. I spent 42 years in marketing. You're looking for market and being able to recoup costs. We're very small. We have very low overhead. So I'm able to take, I think, a bit more risk. So I think many of our books are overlooked by mainstream authors. And as a matter of fact, one of our new titles that's coming out this year is by a very well-respected, award-winning author, Philip Gamboni. And he came to us with a book called As Far as I Can Tell, Finding My Father in World War II. And it was very interesting because he's been published, he's well known, but the book explores his journey in trying to understand his father better by following his father's footsteps and his journey through World War II. And that starts from when he left Ohio for boot camp, across the United States, and then into Europe. And mainstream publishers just didn't see where it fit. They thought it didn't fit, it didn't quite fit World War II history, it didn't quite fit memoir, it didn't quite fit gay nonfiction. And however, it made complete sense to me because, as a gay man, we sometimes have difficult relationships with our fathers, and my father was in World War II, never spoke about the war, as Philip Gamboni's father never spoke about the war. So there's this whole aspect of who our fathers were as men that we never got a real sense of. We never really shared much in common with them. So Phil's journey through the United States and Europe to follow in his father's footsteps, I thought that was a very important work to bring to light.
Or are you worried about being labeled as just a gay press?
No, not at all. If anything, well, that's what we are, and it's in our mission statement. So, no, that doesn't worry me at all.
Interesting. It's an interesting idea. So I'm just trying to think what it is you look for in a book. So the subject doesn't have to be about being gay in itself.
No, it doesn't. We have a new book of short stories coming out in October called Foreign Affairs, Male Tales of Lust and Love by Daniel M. Jaffe, another award-winning author. And the short stories are, the commonality is male sexuality and traveling around the world. And not all the stories are the main characters gay. In some of the stories, some of the characters are straight, but again, it brings, I think, a fresh view and a fresh perspective.
How do you think things are going right now? Like, when we've got the COVID-19 and all these issues right now, do you find that book sales are down or struggling a little bit?
I think so. I think people are really concerned about their budgets right now. And so they're not necessarily spending money. They certainly don't have book acquisition on their minds. We are still selling books. We're still doing well. But I think this is just, I think sales in general are down, and, books certainly go along with that.
It's interesting. So now how do you choose a book then? Like an author or a book, and how do you do it if you're not really taking general submissions?
Well, usually we're introduced to an author. Or the author's introduced to us. We'll read a sample of their work and then decide if it's something that fits. If it's something that fits with our mission for us to bring out. There are things that we do turn down because they don't quite fit. They don't make sense with our collection. I kind of refer to us as the Rattling Good Yarns family, because we maintain very tight collaboration with our authors. Again, I consider us a very author-centric publishing house. And so I kind of go by what I did in my marketing career, which things were very relationship-driven. You develop a relationship, and out of that you develop trust, and you understand who it is you're dealing with and what they have to say. And I think I've brought that into publishing. I often say, I didn't grow up in publishing, so I don't know what I don't know. So I do things the way I think they should be done. And so far that seems to be working.
I just wonder, how do you feel about the publishing market now and the way of the world with Amazon now and all of the e-books and online sort of world, and there's a lot of people self-publishing. What do you think? What's your overall view of publishing now?
Well, I think you just have to grow and adapt. The world changes. And, I spent my career 42 years in technology, so I've seen a lot of change in my life. And you just have to kind of see where things are going. We do bring out Kindle editions of our books. That's the only e-version we bring out. So I view Amazon as a channel rather than as a competitor. Certainly it's easier to bring out books, but I think end of the day, you have to be priced competitively. You've got to have the subject matter that people are interested in, and you just have to adapt to the market.
So what's your favorite book that you've published? Puts you on the spot.
Oh gosh.
Well, let's talk about some of them. Like what? So you have the memoir of a Groucho Marxist. I'm just losing it today. So what is that about?
That is actually my husband's fictionalized memoir about growing up in England, post-war England. And while there is a very heavy grain of truth in it, it also goes into a bit of fantasy, or what was going on in his head. So I think that's a very amusing read. I'm also particularly proud of our Tell Me About It series, which is nonfiction. So my husband, St. Suki Delacroix, and another author, Owen Keenan, they're both historians. They set about to ask LGBTQ people around the world a set of 10 simple questions. And what was remarkable about it is, although people are separated by age, by the decades, grew up in different times, grew up in different geographies, how common the experience is around the world. We have 2 Tell Me About It books out, and we're soon coming out with Tell Me About It 3, where they asked new questions that weren't in the previous in the previous book. So I'm particularly proud about that because, you don't often get to read the history of everyday people. Everyday people don't get to tell their stories. Famous people get to tell their stories. Celebrities get to tell their stories. But we're all out there and we all have stories to tell. And what I'm proud about the Tell Me About It series is it gives voice to everyday people. And again, as I said, it also shows that what I find completely remarkable is how someone growing up in a country that might have had a dictatorship had the same experience as someone growing up in the United States. So I'm very proud of that series.
How do you go about picking the people that you're going to talk, and tell me about, like country-wise and people-wise? What's the process there?
We put out a call through social media, various internet channels, asking for people to be interviewed. And we either, Owen Keenan and St. Suki Delacroix either interview them over the phone, in person, or via email.
Wow, it's pretty interesting, and you get a pretty good response from that.
Oh yes, we get an extremely good response, and we keep trying to expand the reach of the people who are interviewed.
Pretty amazing. Now, you guys venturing into audio books as well?
I've thought about it, but not at this point in time. I don't feel quite ready for audiobooks yet.
It's the only way I go now.
Yeah. Well, would you like me to read to you at night? I could phone you up and read out.
Yeah. No, it's just for me, because I had cataract surgery and my eyes aren't what they were, so now I'm listening to a lot of books, more so than reading. Just easier.
There's a whole production quality that becomes very necessary. You have to have a good narrator. You have to have good production quality. And I'm very proud of our book layout, our book design. We keep improving, and I think we keep getting better and better. I'm going to focus on print and ebooks right now. I don't rule out audiobooks, but I just don't think that would just, I think, take away some of our attention at this time.
Yeah. So how do you see yourself in the publishing world? How do you think that the as a gay publisher you are represented or thought of, and is there a struggle in the book world as far as being a gay publisher?
Gay publishers are disappearing. Gay bookstores are disappearing. As we go more and more mainstream, there are some that are dropping by the wayside. We're the new kids on the block. I think that 2020 is going to be our year because we've expanded our list of authors. We have some very well-respected authors. I think word is getting around in the author community about us. And, I think we're the guys on the block to watch.
How do you feel about gay rights and the gay communities now under Trump? Let's just say it, and under the current administration now, and what do you think that's going to turn into?
I'm alarmed. I think our rights are in jeopardy. I think the court appointments indicate where the courts are being stacked. I think we need to remain vigilant, but I don't think that's only gay people. I think that it's minorities across the board, and I think there's a divide and conquer approach being taken. So long as they keep us fighting with each other, they keep us from focusing on the real threats. So I'm also Jewish, and there's a severe rise of anti-Semitism. The past 12 months, there's been more anti-Semitic incidents than there were in past years, since these have been recorded, I think, going back into the mid-'70s. So I think it's across the board. I think we see minorities being attacked. And I don't think there's any room for complacency.
So now's the time to act.
Those are my feelings. But then again, I was brought up in the shadow of the Holocaust. And I grew up in Brooklyn. And it was very common for me to go out, my mother, when I was little, taking me out shopping, to the bakery and the butcher and all that. It was very common for people behind the counter to have tattooed numbers on their forearms. So I grew up with concentration camp survivors all around me, and I grew up in the shadow of Nazi Germany, although I was in Brooklyn. And with the idea that it can certainly happen again. So maybe that's my unique perspective on this. But, I'm extremely concerned.
Yeah, it's certainly interesting. How do you feel about the COVID-19 and everything? How's that been going for you? Has it been a real harmful thing for you, or real stressful in your life?
No, we've had to, we're both older men. We fit the demographic for, men in their 60s at risk. So we've taken precautions. It's interesting. I am energized. I'm very gregarious, and I'm energized by social interaction. My husband, Sensuke Delacroix, tends to be more of a solitary person. So I feel, I'm inspired by meeting people, talking to people. So I feel a bit of deprivation there. Ironically, I don't think I've ever been this productive. I'm way more productive than I've been before. I just miss people. But I've also started doing Zoom calls with friends, have what I call weekly beer bust with friends, and we get on Zoom and we socialize. But I can't wait for this to be over.
Yeah, we're all pretty much in that same boat. If you wanted to explain how non-LGBTQ folks could access your works, what would be a great place for people to start?
Which books might be a good one to start with? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
I would start with, I think, Memoir of a Groucho Marxist. I've had very good feedback from non-LGBTQ people. As a matter of fact, someone we know told us that he needed another copy because his sister stole his copy. So I think that's a very accessible place to start. I think that the Tell Me About It series is very interesting because you don't have to read it cover to cover. You can flip through it. There are each of the questions and then the responses. So that is a great book to read, and it doesn't have to be sequential.
Fair enough.
And I think you get a good perspective. I think those are two very good places to start.
Awesome.
I think some of the books we're coming out with, Foreign Affairs, Male Tales of Lust and Love. That won't be out till October. That's a great collection of short stories. It's a very literary collection of short stories. And again, it's not exclusively gay-focused. It covers a wide range of male sexuality. And I think the Philip Gamboni book, as far as I can tell, Finding My Father in World War II, which will also be coming out this fall, would be another great book to start with.
So where do you want to take? Where do you see the publishing going? Like, where do you see it in 5 years?
Oh, I see. We're going to have Harry Potter. J.K. Rowling is going to phone me up any day now.
Do Harry Palmer.
Harry Palmer, yeah. Nice.
That's my drag.
I see us expanding our set of authors. I would like to have audiobooks out eventually. I kind of take it little by little. I'd like to see us have some award-winning titles out and just continue to grow the publishing house.
So now we get to the real question. What's it like to be married to an author?
Well, we've been together for 32 years. Married for we came out to California to get married in 2008 when it was first legal. So we've been married, at least in California since. As a matter of fact, let me digress for a minute. When we moved from Chicago to the Palm Springs area, and we flew out and we landed in, at that time, gay marriage, same-sex marriage was not legal in Illinois. We landed, this is about 6 years ago, we landed in LAX. We got off the plane. I said to my husband, now we can get divorced. Because it wasn't legal in Illinois, so therefore we couldn't get divorced, and we weren't resident in California, so we couldn't get divorced here. At any rate, what's it like being married to an author? Gosh, I often say that I am the Leonard Woolf to his Virginia Woolf. I don't know if you know, Virginia Woolf was very temperamental, and Leonard Woolf her work. And I often say that I'm Leonard Woolf drowning in a sea of Virginias. It's interesting, because creative people can be temperamental in their own way and very sensitive. And the more authors I deal with, the more I see that, coming from a corporate world where, of course, you have to be sensitive to people's feelings. It's not as close to the ego as it is with writers, where each book they've basically given birth. So one has to find ways to be diplomatic.
When people go out and buy your books that you've published, in the back of your mind, you have some sort of hope or some sort of thing that you'd want them to get out of the books that you publish?
Each one would be different. What I want them to get in general is that they are getting stories that they're not going to get from other publishers. Again, I come back to that we give voice to overlooked voices. I think even within the gay press, there are books that don't quite fit the mold. And so from Rattling Good Yarns, that they're going to get something different and totally unique.
Okay. Now, so how do people find your books? What's your website or contact information so that you can, so people can get a hold of you?
Well, they can get our books from our online bookstore, and that's rattlinggoodyarns.com. Our books are also available through booksellers everywhere. So if a bookstore doesn't have our books, they can be ordered. We're available through all book distributors. We're also available on Amazon.com, and as well as the Kindle editions for our books.
Well, fantastic! It's been great listening to you about the publishing world a little bit. We will have your website linked to ours as well, so people listening can do one click and check out the books and see if there's something they'd want to get.
And we are running a sale now, 20% until May 18th. Our Stay In and Read sale. We're running 20% off on all of our titles.
Wow. There you go.
And free shipping in the U.S.
Wow. What more could you ask? Okay.
We do everything short of paying you to take the books. No, I'm not kidding.
Well, there you go. That's it. Thank you very much. Our guest has been the publisher, Ian Henzel. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ian.
To find out more about our show, guests, or to listen to past shows from our archive, please go to www.houseofmysteryradio.com.
Show's over for now.
Was it as good for you as it was for me?
Well, good night.
This has been a production of Something Weird Media.
I'll be back.